to the What's Your Revolution show, a show for men and the people who love them, where we discuss how men can find and embrace the revolution within themselves, where people can find and embrace the revolution within themselves. I am your host, Dr. Charles Corporal. What's good, revolutionaries? I hope all is well and that you are doing your thing. So many times on this show, you've heard me talk about my beloved New Orleans. And it is always, always wonderful to talk about what New Orleans means to me and what it has given to me over the last 17 years. I remember buying my home in Metairie, Louisiana, going to Tulane, August 22nd, 2005, 7 days before Hurricane Katrina. But what happened in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina was that the city went through a renaissance. The city is known for its artistry and its love of each other, love of its people and its collaborations, its community. And that's what I loved about New Orleans, is that it allowed you to figure out who you were and that you could bring yourself up in that city, that you could rise the tide of the Mississippi and come out on the other side something bigger and greater. And that's what I love about New Orleans, because it made me a better person. It made me learn how to persevere. It made me learn how to be with the people, how to talk to folks, to say, bruh, how you feel, It was interesting. I was with some family, and I said I went to Tulane, and brother ran to his room and got his Tulane gear and hat. And I said, say, bro. He just looked at me. He's like, yeah, you know how to talk to the people. That's what we do down in New Orleans. And so I began to think, as I think about missing home, like, who is an indication? Who is a beacon of light? Who is a icon when it comes to New Orleans culture and New Orleans music? And I had to give a shout out to my dude, my guy, my boy, Dee-1. Look, let me give this brother his flowers before he even says anything. I want you to know, Dee-1, right? Dee-1, top 10 Billboard recording artist, right? Emmy nominated, NAACP award-winning rapping. As you see when you see the visually inclined, this brother is wearing a Harvard Scully. He is the Nasir Hip Hop Fellow at Harvard. Can you imagine that, right? Coming from New Orleans East, right? LSU. I want to say it was Audubon Montessori School was the elementary school that he went to, right? All the way from New Orleans to Harvard. Brother, I am honored. I am humbled to have Dee-1 on my show. What's going on, brother? How are you?
I'm doing amazing, and I'm just thankful that I'm in a space where that type of intro lets me know that you really genuinely honor who I am and what it is that I'm contributing to this world while God has me here. So thank you. It means a lot to be in a space where I don't feel like I'm trying to prove myself. So much about hip hop and so much about the world, even as a Black man, feels like you're always trying to prove yourself to people. But it's very refreshing to enter a space where I already feel celebrated and loved. So I appreciate you.
Man, and that's what this show is about, brother. Admiration and love and respect to you, brother, because it takes a lot to go out in the world and be who we are as Black men, right? And to put ourselves out in the world, especially when we have talents, right? Because it takes a level of guile, it takes a level of vulnerability, it takes a level of, as my father would say, a level of perseverance, that if you're going to create something that is going to move folks, we are of African descent, right? When you think about this, right, when we take things that are going to move folks, it takes our ability to say, I need to be something different in the world. I want to ask you, what makes you different in this world from anybody else? What's that story?
So what makes me different is I've thought about this many days and many nights, and it's a unique combination of opposing elements that comprise who David Augustin Jr., aka Dee-1, is. So it's being able to come from New Orleans East, where at the time I was growing up in the neighborhood I was growing up, it's called the Goose. it's a lot of violence, it's a lot of poverty, but it's being able to go across town to Audubon Montessori Elementary and Middle School, which is near Tulane and Loyola's campuses, and me seeing other cultures, me seeing other income brackets, me seeing other students with different life experiences and perspectives than what's going on my block. So it's that unique balance. It's me going to Ghana as a young teenager from
Mm,
New Orleans and being able to not only see what's going on in the Goose, but see what's going on in Accra and see how they're valuing education. It's me listening to the Hot Boys and to No Limit Records growing up in New Orleans, but it's me also listening to this brother from Queensbridge Projects in
mm,
New York named Nasir
yes.
Jones and being like, man, I'm drawn to Lil Wayne and Juvenile, but I'm also drawn to Nas just as much. And it's all of these unique things. It's me being the captain of the basketball team, but also being in the chess club. It's
Yes.
these opposing forces that people would normally think, well, they don't go together. If you're this, you're not that. If you're that, you're not this. And I'm all of it. And because I'm all of it, that's part of what makes me different. So it's me choosing to be a rapper after becoming a college graduate and having experience as a middle school teacher and choosing to get into the rap game, not from a place of please, please, please accept me, not from a place of
Mm,
I'm desperate and if I can't make it in the rap game, I'm either going to be dead or in prison, but getting into the rap game intentionally to change the game and to be different
yes.
and to reshape the narrative of what people see as a rapper from Louisiana. I didn't want to be a person that, okay, you have to fit into the same stereotype that we think of. Because I remember growing up, and anytime I would travel out of state for basketball tournaments, and we tell them we're from New Orleans, there's this one idea that they have of, oh, you young, black, and a male from New Orleans. Man, y'all are some gangsters down there. Y'all ready to kill
Yeah.
somebody.
Mm,
Y'all,
ew,
y'all must
got that
all
fire. You got that
yeah,
fire.
yeah, that. And I'm just like, some of the things that you love or have heard about New Orleans, I am that. I'm all of that. But there's some other things that you have heard or maybe um boxed us into being that I'm actually bigger than that. That's something that doesn't have to be celebrated, in terms of the narrative that New Orleans is just about murder and Mardi Gras. That's not something to
Mm,
celebrate. It's something to understand what contributes to the high murder rate in New Orleans and to not run away from that and to confront those issues head on. But then when we think about the Mardi Gras element and the partying and the having fun, that is something to be able to feel great about and understand where does that joy come from. There's a lot of people who, even when they're happy on their happiest days, they aren't able to exude the type of joy that we exude in New Orleans. So it's me being able to embrace all of that stuff, but not be boxed in to that stuff.
brother, brother, thank you so much. And so much in that. The synopsis that I hear is that if we really want to separate ourselves in the world, we have to think about you think about the gumbo. I'm gonna bring it all back to my, our New Orleans. You know what I'm saying? You think about that gumbo. You're bringing in, and how was the history of the gumbo, right? Knowing that the roots of the gumbo is that we were taking certain items that they were given to us so we could create a delicacy, brother,
Mm.
right? You think of Dee-1 as a music delicacy for us. That is an amalgamation, right, of all of these different things. I'm not just gonna take the Hot Boys, right? I'm not gonna take Wheezy and Juvenile, right? I'm gonna take all of these seasonings that allow me to create something, right, that is delectable to the ear of folks, right? That is New Orleans based through and through, but has elements of a worldview. That's what I love when we think about revolutions of black men, right? When we think about that, those greatest revolutionaries were the ones that were free minded, that were open minded, that allowed themselves to see things that were greater, that they went out and experienced things that they had never had. The interesting thing, D, is that I remember this statistic after the storm, and there was a large percent of New Orleanians that had never left the city, had never been across the bridge. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine how you haven't seen the war. But what happened, when folks got on those buses for Hurricane Katrina and they were going to Utah and Nevada and California and New York and Maine, they're like, wait, there's something different. Now, many folks came back because New Orleans has a flair and seasoning unlike any other place in the world. But when you have the ability to see something different, it gives you a gravitas, it gives you a grounding, it gives you an earthiness that allows you to create something better, bigger, and different. And that's what Dee-1 is. That is what Dee-1 music is. It is an amalgamation. It is a gumbo that we've never tasted before. And so thank you, dear brother, because I'm thinking about the Soul Rebels. I'm thinking about the Brassaholics. I'm thinking about the second line music that happens on Sundays that are so New Orleans. But when you think of Dee-1, you think of all of that and more. So, brother, thank you for all that you do. But one thing that you said, I want to break this down for a second.
Are you? I don't mean to interrupt, brother. Are you into poetry? Because you the way you putting the words together, I'm like, this brother is spitting some poetic bars, man. Thank you. Do you do poetry at all?
I do not.
Okay,
This is my poetry right here. This is my zone of genius. And I get excited. Look, I got an Emmy nominated, Billboard top 10 brother on the show. This is my catalyst. This is my excitement here, brother. So it is because of you that I have the ability to spit like this. Right?
Okay.
But I want to talk something about David Augustin Jr. Right? Tell me a little bit about the story of who that is, not Dee-1, but the folks that your folks know, right? The folks that your people, that when you go back to the block, when you go back to the goose, because what happens when you talk on these other interviews, you're talking about Dee-1. I want to know about David Augustin Jr. Who is he? What is he like? How did he grow up?
Right. So the question to who David is really simple, because I have taken David with me into the rap game. It's not like I had to divorce myself from David to turn into Dee-1. Dee-1 is just a more well-known, outgoing version of who David is. And that's the beautiful part, is people who knew David growing up, they don't look at Dee-1 and say, who is that guy? They look at Dee-1 and say, yeah, like that's David, just with a microphone, with a microphone in his face and with a big platform and a lot of people paying attention to him. So that's the beautiful part. What shaped David into David, first of all, I mean, there's no way to escape it. It was definitely a very loving family, from parents to grandparents, that really poured into me in a way to where I think the main thing I've taken from my family is that they just have really pure spirits and good character. Like that is, I could sit here and say what I haven't, gotten from them, or what we went without, but none of that stuff overshadows what was the norm. And what's always been the norm for me is to be in an environment where my parents and grandparents were literally people who wanted to leave this world better than they were brought into it. So then how they were brought into it. So that means that whatever they chose to do, I come from a family of, all the men have been blue collar workers prior to me. So my grandfather was a plasterer. He's 92 years old, still moving and grooving, still doing great. My grandpa is amazing. My pops, he was a welder his whole career. So, waking up every morning, driving from New Orleans East to Reserve, Louisiana, almost an hour away, to put in work as a welder on the river, and then still make it back in time for my baseball practices or my basketball games and things of that nature. So I saw a very strong work ethic from my father and my grandfather, but I also saw my grandmother start her own transportation service and be that person to where her hospitable personality, she was able to flip that into, she's going to be, the woman that picks students up on their way to school and has a van service to where she drives them to school all around New Orleans, and picks them up from school and drops them back home. She was also the Hucklebuck lady, the lady who made frozen cups on the block. So she was the person, people pulling up to the front door, and they wanted to come and get a hucklebuck and get a frozen cup from my grandma, and I'm seeing her be able to make that little pocket change
Contribution.
just to
Yeah,
have
yeah.
have not only have money but uh to be a stakeholder in her community, to where
Mm,
she was a source of people wanting to come to her to experience some sort of joy and some sort of wholesome pleasure, something that she was able to do, feed people, provide people with with a snack, something nice. I saw her work at the church for, I mean, basically my whole childhood. She would volunteer and she would work at the church that we attended in New Orleans. I saw my grandpa just be so well respected by all of his peers, and him tell me all these stories of how he grew up. I had like firsthand knowledge of what it was like to grow up as a black man in New Orleans in the 40s and in the 50s. And
yes.
I'm hearing all these stories, from a perspective of what he went through and what he had to persevere through. So that really, like, that had more of an impact on me than rap music. That had more of an
Mm,
impact on me than what my friends were getting off into, as we grow up. And yeah, you got friends who take different routes in life, and some of them go to jail, some of them get into problems that they end up being victims of gun violence. And I was around all this, and I speak about that often. My best friend being murdered in my old neighborhood, and me just having another friend that's doing 25 years right now in prison. Like, yeah, that
mm,
was a part of my upbringing, but that never overshadowed the the wholesome love and character that my family poured into me. So that was always the foundation that I walked into school with, that I walked onto the playground with,
yes.
that even when I got to college, that I walked onto a college campus with, that I walked into the rap game with, that I walk onto social media with. It's just David being grounded with this
Yes.
foundation of like love and just really good character from his
Mm,
family. That's probably a long-winded way of describing
beautiful. It's
who
beautiful.
David is. So David is that, plus whatever comes along with being raised in New Orleans and seeing a whole lot, being exposed to a whole lot of different um walks of life, and having different experiences that I went through, that it might not be everybody's norm, and stuff, in terms of some of the stuff I saw and some of the stuff that I had to endure. But all of that stuff, it's about how do you respond to
Mm,
violence? How do you respond to uh discrimination, or people trying to, yeah, trying to minimize your dreams and whatnot? How do you respond to it? And I find that the way I've responded to any adversity in life was definitely shaped by that
mm.
foundation that came from my family. So
Brother.
that's it. So for anybody watching this, that's how much power you have as a parent, as a grandparent, as
Mm,
an
mm,
uncle and
mm.
auntie. You heard me?
Yeah. There it is. There you heard me, bro.
Yeah.
Um, I, I'm enamored with that answer, brother, because we think about the black family, right? And there's been so much disparity when it comes to the black family. And all of the nefarious things that I've said about black folks and the black family, that the nuclear black family does not exist, or all of these things. It's not true. It's not true. You're sitting at Harvard, right? You're seeing all these folks, right? I'm sitting here with a PhD. The groundedness of what our families were able to do, right? What you said about your father is the same thing that I saw about my father, dear brother, right? That the ability for them to pour work ethic and great values. My mother, just like your grandma, entrepreneur, when it needed a little side hustle, she started selling jewelry,
Mm-hmm.
costume jewelry. I got to see entrepreneurship very, very early. I love it. I'm enamored with entrepreneurship. But I got to see this woman who said, you know what? I found a passion. I found something that I love. It builds community. I get to interact with other women. I get to trust them. It's something that I love to do. It gets me out of the house, right? Even now at 82, she's still her jewelry room is still full, where folks still come over, D, and say, "Hey, can you dress me up? Can you dress me up for the next ball?" Right? Can you put something on? And that's the wonderful thing, because if I think about this whole thing that I'm going to weave about you, D, is that even though the goose and the I'm gonna say the opportunity to be exposed to violence, the chances to be exposed to violence, the actual experience of violence are trumped by the ability to walk into a home that is loving and caring and protected, and that not only has a father who goes out to work every day, a pawpaw, right?
Mm.
As we say in New Orleans,
Yep.
that shows you who you are, but a grandmother and a mother to say, hey, we got you. We are going to surround you. We are going to protect you. And then guess what? We're going to push you out into the world, dear brother, our
Mm.
son, because guess what we see? Guess what we see, D?
Mm.
We see greatness
We
in
see
you.
greatness. Yep. We
We
see
see
greatness.
greatness in you, dear brother.
Mm.
And that is a wonderful thing. And I give a shout out. I lost my father September 16th of this year.
Mm.
My father said every day, you are greater than what you think you are. You
Mm.
are further along than where you were when you started. You think about Dee-1 in '09 with J50 and Wheezy. You are further along now, dear brother, than you were back then. It's 2022, brother.
Yeah.
You know, and so again, our families are everything to us, dear brother, and
Yes.
what we do. And thank you for sharing this story. I would be remiss. I've got to ask you this question, brother. What's your revolution?
So my revolution is to be real, righteous, and relevant in everything that I do, man. That is my revolution, and to inspire anyone who my music or my voice is able to reach to also be real, righteous, and relevant in pursuit of their God-given purpose. So
Mm,
that's my revolution. I'm gonna say that again. My revolution as Dee-1 is to be real, righteous, and relevant in pursuit of my God-given purpose, and to inspire anyone who hears my music or my voice to be real, righteous, and relevant in pursuit of their God-given purpose. Period.
mm.
Drop the mic.
Period. Drop. Boom. I love it. Period. So we're gonna do a deeper dive, man. Break down those three. Like let's really to be real means what to you?
So
What does that
realness,
mean?
yeah, realness is all about two things. It's about authenticity, and I learned authenticity and embraced authenticity at an early age because I realized that I wasn't all the way this or all the way that. So in every sense of the word. So I'm the person who, us being kind of shaped and molded by the music we listen to and whatnot, naturally a lot of people would want to emulate their favorite artists. So when I'm with my friends and we taking pictures, for example, I noticed that I was like, a lot of my friends, we just take on the persona of our favorite rappers. And one thing is when it's picture time, ain't nobody trying to smile. It's like hard stone face, mean mug, right? Me, I was like, bro, I'm always wanting to smile, man. Like it's a picture. Like I'm happy from in here. You know what I mean? I'm happy from in here, from in my spirit. So I want to exude that. So I was like, hold on, I got motion
Take your time, brother.
lights.
So
All right,
yeah,
there we
yeah.
go.
I know that. I know that life.
Yeah. So that being said, I was like, all right, I don't all the way fit into, this box of even being exactly like my friends. I don't all the way fit into the box of being a person that goes to a really good school that doesn't really stress athletics, but being like, well, hey, I'm a scholar and an athlete. I'm the person who was on the news for being like the A+ athlete in high school and saying, oh, this brother is achieving big in the classroom. He's a national achievement scholar, but at the same time, he's dropping 20 points a game on the basketball court. And that was something where I said, you know what, I need to embrace the authenticity, even
Yes.
like all the things that make me different and make me like stand out from a crowd. Instead of trying to tuck that away, being real is about saying I'm proud of this stuff. I'm proud of the
Yes.
things that may make me different. So that's what realness is about. um Being righteous, the second one. When I say be righteous, I grew up in a time where doing the right thing was often considered to be like wrong or corny or
Hmm.
lame, and doing the wrong thing would often get glamorized and popularized to where I saw firsthand. I saw somebody that was like my twin literally fall victim to the pressures of doing the wrong thing but being celebrated for it. And I realized when I say be real and then be righteous, I realized that it's important for young people and adults to understand that doing the right thing is always right, even if you're not celebrated
Mm,
for it, even
mhm.
if it's not popular in the space that you're in, even if it's hard, even if it's taxing on your spirit. Doing the right thing is always right, and doing the wrong thing is always going to be wrong. And it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay. No one is going to be perfect, but it is about at least being able to acknowledge the difference between what's right
Yeah,
and what's wrong.
right.
And I think that we live in a world nowadays to where we assume that if something is successful, that oh, that must be the right thing because it blew up. It got big. That business took off, or that rapper's career took off. So even though their most popular song is a song about them killing people and selling dope to their own community, hey, they must be doing the right thing because it blew up. And it's like, nah, we can't attribute uh we can't attribute worldly success to moral righteousness. And I
Right.
think that there's a
Mm,
difference. There's a difference
yeah,
there between, yeah, material success and moral righteousness. There's a lot of people with a lot of money in the bank, but morally they're bankrupt. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
brother. Yes, yes, yes,
Absolutely
I do.
bankrupt morally. And so when I say be real, it's about authenticity. It's about being righteous, knowing the difference between, moral righteousness and just being celebrated for material possessions or worldly success. And finally, being relevant. When I talk about being relevant, that's saying that in whatever work you were called to do, whatever your God given purpose is, you want to make impact and income. We all
Mm,
think that being relevant is about, hey, what's that bank account looking like? And as long as I'm doing well over there, then that means that I'm relevant in what I do. But to be relevant means that there's a lot of other people out here that want your position, that want your spot, that want the the accolades that come along with success. But being relevant is about being significant and not just famous. You know what I mean?
mm.
Like there's
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
there's
yes.
there's a lot of people who literally just want your spot because they see the platform that you're on, or they understand some of the blessings that come along with being in a certain position. But just because you're famous doesn't mean you're significant. I know rappers who have sold 1 million records, but they ain't changed no lives for the better.
None. 0.
Yeah, and being relevant is like what it does for me is it makes me have to work hard and harder than the people who I know don't have the same mission as me, but who I know have strong work ethics. So just because you here to glorify something righteous or positive, or be a man or a woman of God, that doesn't mean that you're guaranteed success or relevance in the industry that you're in. There's a lot of people who are conspiring to do a lot of negative things, or who are perpetuating a bunch of hatred and evil in this world, but they work hard. So we can't deny. One thing I won't do is ever deny someone's work ethic. So when I see the people who are putting out the negativity in the world, and the hatred and the divisiveness and the discriminatory messages, when I see that they work hard, that should inspire a man of God that's real and
Yes,
righteous to want to be
yes.
relevant as well, and say, well, I'm gonna work harder than them because what I'm packing is what the world needs more of. You heard me?
Say it
So I gotta
again.
come.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what being real, righteous, and relevant is all about. It's
Mm,
the trifecta.
right. That's the masterclass right there. Be yourself, do the right thing,
Yeah.
and make impact in the world.
Mm. Mm.
That's it.
Mm.
Make
Poetry.
impact. That's it, brother. I love it, brother. I love it because it is a blueprint for success. It is a blueprint for people's lives, right? And you've been saying this for a long, ever since I've known you. That's what you've been saying, right? And it has not wavered,
Mm.
right? Be real, be righteous, be relevant. And all of those things, those are the equations for us as we think about how to be revolutionary, right? Right. For some of it to be revolutionary, because the last part is really, really key in that equation. And what you said, to be relevant, right? Because both of us are on social media. You're got bigger following. But think about when when I'm talking to kids, when I'm talking to corporations, I ask people, pull out your phones.
Mm.
Who are you following?
Mm.
Who are the first 10 accounts that come up on your screen?
Right.
Right? If it's junk, if it's mess, right, then you have to think about what you think is relevant in your life.
Mm.
You know,
Mhm.
that's the thing, right?
Mm.
Sometimes we gotta flip that. We gotta flip this. We gotta. Sometimes we even gotta blow up the whole account. Say, I need to unfollow. Because this is not relevant, or this is not making me relevant, or I can't be relevant because of who I'm following.
Mm.
You think about, I can't be real. I can't be righteous because I'm following folks, like you said, who are not doing the right things. And that's the wonderful thing. If we're going to be revolutionary in our lives, we have to figure out how we not only impact ourselves, but we impact others. And that leads me to this, right? You're impacting folks with your music. Right? We haven't even talked about that. We've just been excited about David Augustin Jr. But now let's jump into Dee-1.
Mhm.
Your music has an impact on the world, but it's different. The whole theme of this conversation is different. How did you come up with this style and this genre? Because you are a category starter. What was
Mm.
the impetus for Dee-1's style of music?
Great question. So for me, I wanted to be a bridge between two worlds that I was influenced by musically. I was definitely influenced by street music, music, that was talking about violence and poverty and drugs. These were things that I saw honestly growing up in New Orleans, and I was influenced by that music hands down. But I was also influenced by the real life experience of being a teacher, being a middle
Mm,
school teacher, and interfacing with my students on a daily basis and understanding that what they needed was not more music that was simply glorifying the elements of the street life, but what they needed was something that incorporated those elements, but translated that energy into something that could be constructive and productive towards them being able to grow in a more uh in a more positive, righteous direction. So instead of wanting to emulate exactly what they were hearing verbatim, it was almost like we need a revolution in terms of what can be created and offered to them. So offering something different. I just wanted to be a different item on the menu. When
mm,
you look at the menu of what was being offered musically, I was just like, hey, I want to be the person that has the flavor and the taste of what I know they're drawn and attracted to, but who is coming with a different perspective because I see and understand what they need because I'm in the classroom with them on a daily
yeah,
basis. So
yeah.
you mix a brother that's in church on Sundays with a brother who, grew up in the streets and seeing and understanding violence and poverty. You mix a brother who graduated college and was a teacher with someone who has this infectious charisma and this ability to just, excite people with my presence and with my energy. You mix all that together, and most of all, you put it in the context of a brother who understands his purpose in life and understands that whatever I'm doing, my goal is to once again be able to be real, righteous, and relevant while carrying out my God given mission. And key word is God, because we could have many missions that don't involve God. And if it doesn't involve God, those missions could take us in all kind of directions in this world. But my genre of music and my ability to be like you said, a genre starter, comes from me understanding that I'm not I'm not like anybody else who I grew up
Yeah.
listening to. I'm not all the way this. So it's like if Nas was a hot boy, then okay, that might be D1. If Lauryn Hill and Tupac had a son, that might, a little
That's
light skinned baby
D-1.
somehow, that might be D1. And I realized that that didn't necessarily exist, but that was great. And that's what made me say, I want to be a rapper because I can add a texture and a layer to the game
Mm,
that doesn't exist already. And that's exciting for me. It's not exciting to live a life where I'm just wanting to be a replica of something that already exists, that the world already has. I don't want to be a replica of something that the world already has.
Brother, I work with startups all day long, every day, right? And we think about entrepreneurship and startup culture. The best companies are the ones that figure out how to do something different that people are clamoring for, right? That people are clamoring for, but they do it in a different way than any other company.
Mm, mm,
And that's Dee-1, right?
mm,
You think about that, right?
mm,
This as I said, this amalgamation, this gumbo that is Dee-1. Folks said, I want to taste something different. I want to hear something different. You don't curse, right? And the thing about it is and I'm going to bring this up in the question, is that God is at the foundation of who you are.
mm-hmm,
You talk about God. I want to say I was listening to the three brothers. You was like, God is in every lyric that you say at
mm,
some point.
mm-hmm,
That's something different. But like you said, I'm thinking about my students. I'm thinking about my impact. I'm thinking about my relevancy to the
mm-hmm,
world. I'm creating a genre of music that allows my students to look up and say, you know what? That was Mr. Augustin. That was my teacher.
right.
I can listen to his music. And guess what? He's a best-selling musician.
Mm-hmm,
I too can be like that.
mm-hmm,
We say here on the show all the time, D, is that your revolution is not just for you.
mm,
And I'm sure that when you started thinking about who you were going to be as a musician, who you were going to be as a rapper, you thought of those students that you were teaching in Baton Rouge.
mm-hmm,
You thought about them and saying, I want to go out and make something greater for them. I am an idol, and I say this. I say this in the greatest way. I am an idol for them to look at down the road.
mm-hmm,
To say
mm-hmm,
that brother didn't say he wasn't talking about women in a Ferris way or a misogynistic way.
mm-hmm,
He wasn't talking about killing or shooting or boozing or drugging or whatever.
mm-hmm,
He was talking about how he was uplifting his community, how three brothers can come together, right? Three brothers can come together and make music that it uplifts our people, brother.
mm-hmm.
I want to come back because it's interesting. I said I want this to be a different conversation. You talk about in one of your interviews that you were not influenced to bring Christ into your life, to bring God into your life.
Mm-hmm.
God found his way to you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that? Because many of us, and I'll even be more vulnerable. I've always felt like the religion was forced upon me, that I didn't find it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I've struggled with that. I've struggled with that, that I didn't find God and religion myself.
Mm-hmm.
But you talk about that you found him.
Mm-hmm.
What was that journey like for you to find God? And why do you continue to pour God into your work?
Sure. Let me turn this air. I don't know if you hear that air. You hear that air?
Go ahead. Do what you need to do,
Hold up.
brother. We're good.
There we go. All right.
There you
So
go.
it's really simple and it's really relatable. In terms of my journey towards finding God in an everlasting way, not discovering who God is, but actually forming a relationship with God, it was brought about because I was finding identity in so many other things in the world. And there's four things that at the time I know I was finding identity in. And when all four of those things got taken away from me, I was like, whoa, I'm at a point now where I either have no identity and I'm
Mm,
lost, or I have to realize that the mistake all along is that I was finding identity in things that can all be taken away. Meanwhile, when it comes to God, when I find my identity, in Christ, that's when it's like, oh, this isn't this boat isn't going to sink. This isn't going to
mhm,
leave me at a certain point. So I was finding identity in the relationship I was in at the time as a young college
mm,
student. I went to college, uh, largely influenced by the girl I was with at the time. We were in a relationship, and I got full scholarships to several other schools. I had really good grades and test scores. but I went to the school. I went to LSU because that's where she was able to get into and go. And when I got there, it's like the reason why I went there was an act of loyalty to show you that although
Mm.
I could be going all across the country, I'm gonna come right here in our backyard, stay in our home state just because that's where you're going. And that same person ended up, deserting me and cheating on me, and
Mm.
we end up breaking up, right? So I was finding a lot of identity in that relationship. So I saw how that could get taken away from me. I was definitely finding identity in my awards and my accomplishments that were coming from me being a star basketball player in high school, and me understanding that, oh, my achievements are contributing to like how good I feel about myself. So David has this confidence partly because of these MVP trophies and these awards and distinctions that I'm getting. And then I get to college and my goal was to continue playing basketball. I was like, I could easily play at a small school, but I feel like I could play at a big school, a D1 school like LSU, because I'm me. Like I MVP
I'm a
this,
baller.
yeah, I'm a baller. So I attempt to walk on to their team and I get cut. I had a good shot to make it, I thought, but I ended up getting cut. So I didn't
Mm.
make the cut. I didn't make their squad. So now all of a sudden you go from big man on campus to, whoa, I'm not even on the team anymore. I don't even know how it feels to not have a
Mm.
jersey, to not have that, just that swag that comes along with, yeah, like I'm the star athlete. So that I realized that really crushed me because a big part of my identity was built into that. Another part of my identity was really being found in the friendships that I had and in feeling like, oh, I have this allegiance to this clique or to this crew. For some people, that might be friends that y'all essentially form like a brotherhood and y'all say, hey, we day ones, like we came in this thing together, we're gonna
Yeah.
be friends
Yeah.
for life. And man, I realized in college that, bro, a lot of my friends, they really started, just scattering and going in different directions. Some of my friends started, selling drugs when we got to college. Some of my friends, I'm like, wait, we got to college. Like the goal wasn't to just get here. The goal was to graduate. It's like
Yeah.
some of my friends got to college and just felt like, all right, I made it. So, I'm just here to do everything except for focus on the mission, which I thought the mission was for us to graduate. A lot of my friends didn't end up graduating because they just really got on some other stuff. So I started realizing that if I had this blind loyalty to this, to this clique that that I felt like, oh, this is my crew, then that blind loyalty would also take me away from, the mission that I knew I had, which was to finish school. So I ended up falling out with a lot of my original crew
Wow.
that I started college with because they were just, I was trying to walk that line of, man, I'm still y'all boy, I'm still David, but at a certain point, I gotta go study. You know what I'm saying? At a certain
Yeah.
point,
Yeah.
we
You
can't
gotta
we
do your
can't
thing,
just,
brother.
yeah, we can't just,
Scholarship.
come on, man.
Scholarship.
Come on, man. At a certain point, bro, like I could chill, we could party, we could at a certain point, bro, I gotta go do some work. And at a certain point, I'm also not taking part in some of this stuff that y'all are off into, um, and that, that was the part that they looking like, oh, you kind of like goody two shoes, or you think
Oh,
you
yeah,
better than,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that whole
You're too
energy.
white for us.
Yeah, that part. There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
And the fourth thing that I was finding identity in was life itself. And what I mean is when Hurricane Katrina hit in New Orleans, like I hadn't got to that point to where I even realized how quick something that, like my house or my whole neighborhood, something that is just like normal to me that I'm taking for granted, this is gonna be here forever. I didn't realize how quick those things could get taken away. Also
Mhm.
as my city, it gets swept away right before my eyes, I'm also seeing real people who I knew and grew up with for the first time being like, man, this person got killed in Katrina. This person died, or
Mm.
this person, got killed in the aftermath of Katrina. Just with what's going on and having to relocate and getting into it with people in different cities. I'm experiencing death in a real way. to where I'm like, man, this, even life itself, like I shouldn't put my identity in the things that I'm assuming are going to be here forever, whether it's
Right.
people, whether it's a city, whether it's friendships, whether it's intimate relationships, or whether it's even status, as a certain achiever of certain awards and all that. So when all that stuff got taken away from me within like a 12-month period, it left me in a space where I finally, had that encounter with God in a real way that wasn't
Right.
forced and that wasn't me going out, because I wasn't going out looking for anything, because I was like, man, I'm good. I got love and affection and admiration all around me. And then all of a sudden I realized, man, that stuff got taken away. So that's where I realized the whole time that my relationship with God didn't have to be performative. You know, with
Right.
with the basketball team, it's a performative relationship. If I couldn't perform on a certain level, I ain't even good enough to make the team. You know what I'm saying? With my girl at the time, if I couldn't fulfill certain needs and
Yeah.
desires she had on a certain level, I wasn't even qualified to be in relationship with her. I definitely saw with my friends, if I'm not rocking a certain way with y'all ain't even trying to hang around me no more. So
Yeah.
with God, I realized it wasn't performative, it was faith-based. And it was like, do you believe? And are you willing to understand that, like, I created you, and you literally are someone that I love you that much that, like, you didn't even have to be created, D. You know what I'm saying? You weren't just created by your mom and pops. Who made your mom and pops? You know what I'm saying? And
Right. Right.
who like all of this is very purpose driven in terms of why you're here, in terms of who you are, and in terms of whose you are. And I finally came face to face with whose I was. And at that point, it just made me say, gotcha. So now my priorities have shifted to,
Yeah.
to showing my admiration and my gratitude to you, God, on a daily basis for even,
Yes.
caring about me and keeping me amidst all this other stuff. Because now instead of saying, well, dang, my girl cheated on me, or dang, I fell out with my friends, or dang, Katrina here, we lost our crib, I'm also thinking, that's the negative side of things. But let me still think about the blessings that I do have despite that stuff. And I
Man,
realized,
brother,
man, my blessings were outweighing my burdens, like
all the time.
tenfold,
All the time. All the time. Brother, thank you for that, because that was a masterclass as we talk about. And what I pull from this is that things are taken the worldly things are taken away from us all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time.
Mm-hmm.
The belief and faith is our own. We control that. You couldn't
Mm-hmm.
control your girl leaving. You couldn't control as much as you could. As much as you tried to,
Yep.
you couldn't control making the team,
Yeah.
right? You couldn't control your friends,
Mm-hmm.
right? You couldn't control Hurricane Katrina. But
Mm-hmm.
the one thing that we can control in our lives, right? And it's so interesting because I do this show not just for the fans. I do this show as a learning opportunity for myself, dear brother. So
Wow.
you are teaching and pouring into me right now.
Wow.
I'm getting a D1 therapy session. So thank you. Uh, but the thing about it is, the one thing that I can control when people leave or resources leave or all of the doubt comes, I am in control of my faith and my walk.
Mm-hmm.
And once we have that rationale and that core belief, that my belief in God, no one can take that away.
Mm-hmm.
No one. I am in control of that. No one can walk in the door and say, I'm going to take this. I'm going to foreclose on this house. I'm going to take this car. I'm going to take all these things because you can't get this. My faith is mine. And that's the thing. And that is the wonderful lesson of the day, because this conversation that we've had, there's so many parallels that we've had, dear brother. I loved my high school sweetheart. I loved her. You're
Mm-hmm.
right.
Mm-hmm.
D, I loved her. She left. She left. D.
I know the feeling, brother. I
Man,
know it firsthand.
she left. I won't even say her name. She left. We're good friends now, but she left, and
Mm-hmm.
it broke my heart. You know what I'm saying? Interestingly enough, man, I've always been different. I've always been that dude. It was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
You lose friends. They come and go. People come and go. But your faith is yours, dear brother. And I look, man, that is the seed that will grow inside of me, in
Mm,
my mind and my heart for so long. Thank you for that. Brother, I know our time is running short, but I wanna ask you this last question. Because again, as I said, that we parallel each other so much. I'm a tad bit older,
mm.
but I spent a long time in the classroom, bro, teaching our kids, right? What do you miss about being in front of those students?
I miss the ability to have no middleman or no, you know, device between me and them. So that direct interaction that I would be able to get with them, there's something that can't replace being able to look someone in their face, them being able to feel your spirit and feel that you genuinely love them, although you may be challenging them to grow and although you may be having to correct them, um, coming from a place of affirmative love, but also transformational love, and being able to, use both of those, as like superpowers of mine in person. That in person experience can't be replaced, and I miss that the most, which is why it makes sense why I get like a different type of joy from doing live performances, as Dee-1 the rapper, or being able to do speaking engagements when I'm giving keynotes or when I'm facilitating workshops. Anything that's in person, there is a level of
Yes.
joy and satisfaction that I get from that. And it's because I genuinely deep down miss getting that every day as a teacher in
Yes.
the classroom. So yeah, so that's why with some people I never understand. I'm like, man, you have a captive audience right now sitting here
Captive.
listening to you speak or perform or whatever it is you're doing. Why are you not just like exuding this joy and this passion for what you're doing? Like, why are you so laid back and lax about it, man? This is the most amazing opportunity ever to have a captive audience that's listening to your life story or listening to the
Yes.
knowledge that you have ascertained over time and that you're now able to translate and communicate to them. I'm like, how are you not like passionate about that? So when I see people and I'm like, oh, that person is in the wrong profession, they don't love what they're doing, I can judge that based on seeing how they are in person when they interact with people. Because you got to be see, I'm in higher education now, so me being here at Harvard and doing a fellowship here, I've been told that, oh, in places like Harvard, they may have professors who they value that professor more for their research capabilities and the scholarly academic, journals that they've been published in or the books that they've written. They may value you more for your research than your ability to teach and relate to your students. And I'm like, oh, that's different, because for me, education and interfacing with students has been rooted in, I want to be a master of the knowledge and of the subjects that I'm teaching. So that comes first. I want to master that. But it means nothing to be a master of a subject if I can't articulate, that, or
Yes.
communicate that knowledge with love and with true
Mm,
admiration for the students that I'm serving and that I'm educating.
yes.
So that's
Yeah.
what I miss the most.
Brother, I remember teaching, and one of the greatest joys of my life is that when you walk on stage, you hear the crowds roar. Dee-1, Dee-1, Dee-1. They are spitting your lyrics as you say them, word by word. I'll I'll never have that experience. But the experience that I had teaching is similar to the experience that you have getting on that stage. I felt like a rock star. I felt like Dee-1. I could walk down the hall, Corpru, Mr. Corpru, dap you up. What's going on? I can't wait to get to class with you today. What's up, man? My kids that still see me, they're in their 30s now. Corpru, Dr. Corpru, all the things. Man, do you know? And I still get the chills. I still think about those years of having an engaged audience, dear brother.
mm,
Having folks say, you know what, I learned something about myself. I learned something about something greater than myself.
mhm.
I learned knowledge and wisdom that I can pass down to my kids. You remember the laughter that we had in your class, Mr. Corprew? All of those things, right? That is what it feels like to be a rock star.
Mm,
You know, so I implore you, if you want to get to feel like you may not get the money that Dee-1's got right now for because he honed his skills and moved, but if you want to feel like a rock star, go be a really, really, really good teacher
mm,
at a place where kids will say, thank you for doing this work with me.
mm,
Go find you an engaged classroom,
mm,
right, of folks that have not had anyone care for them before because of how they looked
mm,
or what they were doing or where they came from.
mm.
And I promise you, you will feel just like Dee-1 when he stands on the stage rocking the mic, talking about God and his three brothers and Slingshot David, all of the things that he's doing. Brother, I am so proud of you. I am humbled to have spent this last hour with you, you know, talking about your journey and your life and your revolution to be real, to be righteous, to be relevant, right, in this world. I wish you great success, brother. And all my revolutionaries, you need to go and listen for a long period of time to the work, to this brother's anthology of music that he's put out. Go start with the beginning. Go back to '09. If you can find some earlier stuff, go back to '09 where I started
Mhm,
and hear the journey of this brother. And go find out who David Augustin Jr. is.
mhm,
All of this. And brother, thank you for what you put out into the world and the revolutionary that you are. You are amazing. You are a black man who is changing the game.
mm.
Thank you so much, brother.
Man, that means a lot to me. And I'll conclude by just saying this. When you speak about changing the game, I am excited that I just released my ninth album 2 weeks ago. And for my ninth album, it's called God and Girls Part 2. And
Mm,
in a continued effort to change the game, uh, we are getting messed over by the streaming platforms as artists because we make on average a third of a penny for every time our song gets streamed online. So if someone listens to my album top to bottom, I would make a total of 4 cents from them streaming my album from top
oh,
to bottom,
wow.
right? Yes, about 4 cents. That being said, um, I've been blessed with the courage and the boldness to be able to say, I'm going to take a different route with this release. And what I did was I created a website. So God and Girls 2, the number 2.com. And my fans now can go on that website and name their own price that they want to pay for my album. They get to literally
Wow.
name their own price, and you still get the album. You can still stream it, you can still download it, but it provides an opportunity for my fans who have been saying, D, how can I most tangibly support you? Because
Yes. Yes.
I love what you represent, D, and I support you as a man and as an artist. So I've allowed people to go on and name their price. I'll still eventually put the album on the traditional streaming platforms, just for new fans who may not have heard of me yet. But for my existing fan base, I've been imploring people to come to my website, get the art directly from the artist, and now you can know that you. It's like when people say, well, if I donate this money to this organization, is it going to actually get to the people, or is it going to get caught up in, people's salaries and all this stuff instead of getting to
Right.
the intended target? So if you want your consumption, to actually support the artist, you can go to name your own price at God and Girls, the number 2.com. And people have been blowing my mind by I've seen people pay up to $1,000 for my album.
Wow.
I've seen
Wow.
people pay literally $500, $300 for the album, all the way to 10, 5, $15 for the album. But it's all good either way because I'm knowing that that's based on a direct relationship that I have with the people, and there's no
Yes.
platform that's separating us from one another. So I appreciate everyone who may be watching this who has already gotten it, and if you haven't gotten it yet, but if you enjoy what I do, the art that I create, the ideas that I represent and that I put out there into the world, get the art directly from me. So God and Girls 2.com. And I'm D1, DEE-1. So just I'm Googleable. You heard me? You can look me up anywhere. I'm on
You
all.
heard me?
You heard me? You heard me? Yeah.
Hey, you heard me? Say, bruh, I'm truly grateful. Revolutionaries, make sure you go out, godandgirls2.com. Make sure you support this brother, this New Orleans brother, this New Orleans East brother, this Audubon Montessori brother, right? This LSU brother, this good brother from New Orleans, right? And as you know, we talk about this. I love New Orleans, and I hope our folks are doing well. Brother, if there's anything I can ever do for you to support you, to uplift you, to provide anything for your revolution, please let us know. And revolutionaries, you know, as I ask you all the time, be ready. Be ready for your revolution, right? And then go out and do it, because you know it is the most thought-provoking question of your life. What's your revolution? We'll talk to you soon. I love you. I love you. I love you.